chapter 4.
King Solomon now ruled over all Israel, and these were his high officials. Azariah, son of Zadok, was the priest. Elihoreph and Ahijah, the sons of Shisha, were court secretaries. Jehoshaphat, son of Ahilud, was the royal historian. Benaiah, son of Jehoiada, was commander of the army. Zadok and Abiathar were priests. Azariah, son of Nathan, was in charge of the district governors. Zabud, son of Nathan, a priest, was a trusted advisor to the king. Ahishar was manager of the palace property. Adoniram, son of Abda, was in charge of the labor force. Solomon also had 12 district governors who were over all Israel. They were responsible for providing food for the king's household. Each of them arranged provisions for 1 month of the year. These are the names of the 12 governors. Ben-Hur in the hill country of Ephraim. Ben-Decker in Makez, Shaalbim, Beth-Shemesh, and Elon Beth-Hanan. Ben-Hesed in Araboth, including Soko and all the land of Hepher. Ben-Abinadab and all of Naphoth Dor. He was married to Taphath, one of Solomon's daughters. Baana, son of Ahilud in Taanach and Megiddo, all of Bethshan near Zarethan, below Jezreel, and all the territory from Bethshan to Abel-Mahilo and over to Jokmeam. Ben-Geber in Ramoth Gilead, including the towns of Jair, named for Jair of the tribe of Manasseh, in Gilead, and in the Argob region of Bashan, including 60 large fortified towns with bronze bars on their gates. Ahinadab, son of Iddo, in Mahanaim. Ahimaaz in Naphtali, he was married to Basmath, another of Solomon's daughters. Baana, son of Hushai, in Asher, and in Aloth. Jehoshaphat, son of Peruah, in Issachar. Shimei, son of Elah, in Benjamin. Geber, son of Uri, in the land of Gilead, including the territories of King Sihon of the Amorites and King Og of Bashan. There was also 1 governor over the land of Judah. Solomon's prosperity and wisdom. The people of Judah and Israel were as numerous as the sand on the seashore. They were very contented, with plenty to eat and drink. Solomon ruled over all the kingdoms from the Euphrates River in the north to the land of the Philistines and the border of Egypt in the south. The conquered peoples of those lands sent tribute money to Solomon and continued to serve him throughout his lifetime. The daily food requirements for Solomon's palace were 150 bushels of choice flour and 300 bushels of meal. Also 10 oxen from the fattening pens, 20 pasture-fed cattle, 100 sheep or goats, as well as deer, gazelles, roe deer, and choice poultry. Solomon's dominion extended over all the kingdoms west of the Euphrates River from Tifsa to Gaza, and there was peace on all his borders. During the lifetime of Solomon, all of Judah and Israel lived in peace and safety. And from Dan in the north to Beersheba in the south, each family had its own home and garden. Solomon had 4,000 stalls for his chariot horses, and he had 12,000 horses. The district governors faithfully provided food for King Solomon and his court. Each made sure nothing was lacking during the month assigned to him. They also brought the necessary barley and straw for the royal horses in the stables. God gave Solomon very great wisdom and understanding, and knowledge as vast as the sands of the seashore. In fact, his wisdom exceeded that of all the wise men of the East and the wise men of Egypt. He was wiser than anyone else, including Ethan the Ezrahite and the sons of Mahol, Heman, Calcol, and Darda. His fame spread throughout all the surrounding nations. He composed some 3,000 proverbs and wrote 1,005 songs. He could speak with authority about all kinds of plants, from the great cedar of Lebanon to the tiny hyssop that grows from cracks in a wall. He could also speak about animals, birds, small creatures, and fish. And kings from every nation sent their ambassadors to listen to the wisdom of Solomon.
Wait a minute. I have to do something. I was trying to publish the Bible reading because it was private. 1kings chapter 1, 2, and 3. Okay. And now we're gonna read to 1kings chapter 4, we just read. So certainly let's explore the topic of chapter 1 Kings, chapter 4, verse 29, verse 30. And God gave Solomon wisdom and understanding beyond measure, and breadth of mind like the sand of the seashore, so that Solomon's wisdom surpassed the wisdom of all the people of the east and all the wisdom of Egypt, for he was wiser than all other men. Context in these verses, it is stated that God granted Solomon an extraordinary measure of wisdom and understanding. Solomon's wisdom was upheld, surpassing the wisdom of all people of the east and Egypt. This verse emphasizes the supernatural wisdom that God bestowed upon Solomon. It highlights the importance of seeking divine wisdom and recognizing that true wisdom comes from God. Practically, we can apply this lesson by acknowledging our need for God's wisdom in our lives, and we can seek His guidance and understanding through prayer, studying His Bible word, and seeking wisdom from godly mentors. By relying on God's wisdom, we can make wise decisions and navigate life's challenges with discernment. 1kings chapter 4, verse 34, and from all peoples, from all the kings of the earth who had heard of his wisdom, came to hear the wisdom of Solomon. It is mentioned that people from various nations and kings from all over the world came to hear Solomon's wisdom. His reputation as wise and knowledgeable ruler spread far and wide, attracting the attention of many. This verse highlights the impact of Solomon's wisdom and how it drew people from different nations to seek his counsel. It reminds us of the influence that wisdom can have on others and the opportunities it creates to share God's truth. Practically, we can apply the lesson by seeking to grow in wisdom and knowledge, not only for our own benefit, but also to impact and influence others positively. By striving for wisdom, we can become a source of guidance and inspiration to those around us. 1kings chapter 4, verse 20. Judah and Israel were as many as the sand by the sea. They ate and drank and were happy. In this verse, it's mentioning that this combined population of Judah and Israel was vast, like the sand by the sea. It states that they enjoyed prosperity, feasting, and happiness. This verse describes a time of abundance and joy for the people of Judah and Israel. It reminds us of the blessings that come from the living in alignment of God's will and experiencing His favor. Practically, we can apply this lesson by recognizing that obedience to God's commands and seeking His wisdom and lead to a life of fulfillment and joy. It encourages us to trust in God's provision and find contentment in His blessings, whether they be material or spiritual. In summary, 1kings chapter 4 teaches us about the extraordinary wisdom that God granted to Solomon, the impact of his wisdom on others, and the blessings that come from living in alignment with God's will. It encourages us to seek divine wisdom, influences others positively through our own wisdom, and trust in God's provision and blessings. May we be inspired by Solomon's example and strive for wisdom in our own lives. Now we're in 1 Kings chapter 5.
Chapter 5. Preparations for building the temple. King Hiram of Tyre had always been a loyal friend of David. When Hiram learned that David's son Solomon was the new king of Israel, he sent ambassadors to... Then Solomon sent this message back to Hiram. You know that my father David was not able to build a temple to honor the name of the Lord his God because of the many wars waged against him by surrounding nations. He could not build until the Lord gave him victory over all his enemies. But now the Lord my God has given me peace on every side. I have no enemies, and all is well. So I am planning to build a temple to honor the name of the Lord my God, just as he had instructed my father David. For the Lord told him, your son, whom I will place on your throne, will build the temple to honor my name. Therefore, please command that cedars from Lebanon be cut for me. Let my men work alongside yours, and I will pay your men whatever wages you ask. As you know, there is no one among us who can cut timber like you Sidonians. When Hiram received Solomon's message, he was very pleased and said, Praise the Lord today for giving David a wise son to be king of the great nation of Israel. Then he sent this reply to Solomon. I have received your message, and I will supply all the cedar and cypress timber you need. My servants will bring the logs from the Lebanon mountains to the Mediterranean Sea and make them into rafts and float them along the coast to whatever place you choose. Then we will break the rafts apart so you can carry the logs away. You can pay me by supplying me with food for my household. So Hiram supplied as much cedar and cypress timber as Solomon desired. In return, Solomon sent him an annual payment of 100,000 bushels of wheat for his household and 110,000 gallons of pure olive oil. So the Lord gave wisdom to Solomon just as he had promised, and Hiram and Solomon made a formal alliance of peace. Then King Solomon conscripted a labor force of 30,000 men from all Israel. He sent them to Lebanon in ships, 10,000 every month, so that each man would be 1 month in Lebanon and 2 months at home. Adoniram was in charge of this labor force. Solomon also had 70,000 common laborers, 80,000 quarry workers in the hill country, and 3,600 foremen to supervise the work. At the king's command, they quarried large blocks of high-quality stone and shaped them to make the foundation of the temple. Men from the city of Gebal helped Solomon's and Hiram's builders prepare the timber and stone for the temple. Chapter 6. Solomon.
So we swore 1 Kings chapter 5, verse 5. And behold, I sent to build a house for the name of the Lord my God, as the Lord said to David my father, your son whom I will set on your throne in your place shall build the house for my name. Context in this verse, Solomon expresses his intention to build a house for the name of the Lord, fulfilling the promise that God had made to his father, David. He acknowledges that it is his responsibility to construct the temple as a place of worship for God. This verse reminds us of the importance of honoring and worshiping God, providing a dedicated place for his name. It teaches us about the significance of fulfilling our responsibilities and obligations in serving God. Practically, we can apply this lesson by recognizing the importance of creating a space both physically and spiritually where we can worship and honor God. It can involve setting aside a specific place in our homes for prayer and devotion, or actively participating in a community of believers in a church setting. 1kings chapter 5, verse 7, verse 8. And when Hiram heard the words of Solomon, he rejoiced greatly and said, Blessed is the Lord this day, who has given David a wise son to be over the great people. And Hiram sent to Solomon, saying, I have heard the message that you have sent to me. I am ready to do all that you desire in the matter of cedar and cypress timber. In these verses, Hiram, the king of Tyre, responds to Solomon's request for assistance in building the temple. He expresses his joy and blesses the Lord for giving Solomon the wisdom to lead the great people of Israel. Hiram offers his support by providing the necessary materials for construction. This verse highlights the importance of cooperation and support from others in fulfilling God's purposes. It demonstrates the positive impact of unity and the blessings that can come from working together towards a common goal. Practically, we can apply this lesson by recognizing the value of forming partnerships and seeking assistance when working towards God's purposes. It encourages us to foster relationships built on mutual trust and support as we strive to fulfill God's calling in our lives. 1kings chapter 5, verse 18. Solomon's builders and Hiram's builders and the men of Gibeah did the cutting and prepared the timber and stone to build the house. Context in this verse is mentioning that the builders from both Solomon and Hiram, as well as the men of Gibeah, worked together in the cutting and preparing the timber and the stone for the construction of the temple. This phrases the importance of teamwork and collaboration in accomplishing significant tasks. It highlights the unity and cooperation among different groups of people for a shared purpose. Practically, we can apply this lesson by recognizing the value of teamwork and finding ways to work harmoniously with others toward a common goal. It reminds us that when we come together, combining our skills and resources, we can achieve great things for the glory of God. In summary, 1kings chapter 5 teaches us about the importance of honoring and worshiping God, the blessings that come from collaboration and support, and the significance of teamwork in accomplishing God's purposes. It encourages us to create spaces for worship, seek assistance, and a partnership, and work together toward shared goals. May we, inspired by Solomon's example, and strive to honor God in all that we do. So that was 1kings chapter 4, 1kings, and chapter 5, 1kings.